today for the modified slat wall is a sandpaper holder. I've got my sanders up there, and underneath them I want to make a place to hold all the sanding pads. Let me show you what I've got to work with here. I've got several grits of sanding pads here. I've got 60, 80, 100, 180, and 240. It's a good mix for when you're trying to sand something down and get it smooth. I am going to make 4 slots for these. And I also have a roll of this 80 grit emery cloth, aluminum oxide emery cloth, that I want to make a holder for so I can tear up small pieces when I need them. So, starting off with this top and this bottom, and these things are going to be sandwiched in between here. I'm rounding off 3 of the edges so that it gives it a little cleaner, more finished look on plywood. Here is a place for the discs, a place for the roll of sandpaper, 2 slots, so we're going to have 3 spaces here, 2 shelves with 3 spaces, and another one at the top of this. So we'll have 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces for the disc paper and a place for this to be dispensed. And I'll show you how that's going to happen pretty soon. Then I got to put a back on it, of course, and then this, of course, not lined up, but will go on top like that. Very much like the way the sander shelf was made. Notice that I've already cut the 45-degree angle slot for the wall. And these dividers are just 1/4 inch plywood. I cut the slots in the sides back in the table saw when I made the sides. I just put them through the table saw once and a little bit more to widen it because the blade isn't quite wide enough for the plywood thickness. Now, this thin piece of stainless is going to be the knife edge cutter for that rolled sandpaper emery cloth that I showed you earlier. Whenever I'm doing something, I always make a colossal mess, but here it is. I'm ready to hang it up on the wall. And as usual, I'm going to poly all of these all at once when I get everything done. I have stations here for different grits, 240, 180, 100, and I've got some other types of garnet paper here that is 60 and 80, and I draw on this a lot. Here is the roll of sandpaper, and what I have is I've got stainless steel blade with a spacer in between it so the paper can slide through. And I have ground this to a razor edge on this side. So I can take this and I can tear a piece off. I've already done it. I'm not going to do any more because I'm not using this sandpaper and I don't want to waste it. You can get these rolls on Amazon. This is a 4-inch wide. This one is 80 grit, and I think it's 33 feet long. It's nice. It'll be nice to be able to grab a piece of sandpaper and tear it off instead of having to take the garnet sheets and score them and make pieces of them, because sometimes I just need something like this with some sanding and it'll fit on my sanding block also. Just about the right width. And this is pretty good stuff. It's aluminum oxide, but it's on emery cloth so that it's not paper. It's got a cloth. It's got a cloth backing, so it's fairly stiff, fairly rugged. It almost looks like a woven canvas on the back side, so I'm pleased with that. So I'm going to put this up on the wall. So this makes a nice addition to the sander holder on the top. And these are all my sanding pads now. I've got a lot of what I consider to be measuring tools or tools to lay out things. And there are some that I definitely use more than others. Of course, I use the tape measure. I use these steel rules once in a while. I'll use all 3 of these squares depending. And I do use all of these. The compass, and I have a couple of 3 of these. And this angle tool, which can come in really handy at times. These right-angled squares and these French curves. But to tell you the truth, the ones that I use the most are right here. I am not going to clutter my wall with these. They're going into a drawer where I have a lot of pencils and other things like this. And when I do need them, they will be there. So this is what I'm concentrating on. Now, if you've been following along with my slat wall, you can see that I've really tried to build things so that things are consolidated. Because right now I've probably used up 25% of the wall. And my goal is to keep it as tight as I can, build out 3-dimensionally when possible, and try not to clutter it up too much. And to really be mindful of what really needs to go up there. What am I actually going to use? And then what are those tools that look like they should just be out in the open all the time because it maybe looks good or I might use it. But the stuff that I really don't use that much, I need to put in cold storage so I have access to it, but it isn't up here cluttering this wall, just hanging there for ages and never being touched. And with that consolidation in mind, I see a lot of people building an entire board and putting the tools on like this and hanging them, and it looks really good. And it looks very accessible. But I need to keep this in a space that's a fraction of this. So I need to put things so that they're 3-dimensional as opposed to 2. Something more like this. I'm looking to cut 4 slots. I originally did this with a thicker piece of lumber, but halfway through, the thing split on me. So I decided to go back to the plywood, which is really the best thing to use for this stuff. And the reason I'm doing each slot twice is to make it a little bit wider than the thickness of the blade. And the reason the blade is so high is because I want a square cut at the end. So I do have to take it over to the bandsaw in order to flush it out. And like all of these, I like to round over the surfaces that aren't going to be joined. I'm drilling a dimple on each side so that I can glue some of the magnets here, and that's what will hold up the rulers. So here we are with hammers. I don't use hammers much because I don't pound nails unless I'm building a deck, which I haven't done in a while. So I just need a little something to knock things into place. And I can't believe I had all these hammers plus a couple more up on my cleat wall. Ridiculous. This one, it's a small sledge. If I have a ground rod to pound in the ground, this is really nice, but it doesn't belong in my wood shop. This, a really nice ball peen hammer that is heavy and it hits good, but I rarely have anything that heavy to hit or that hard to hit here in the shop. A claw hammer, your typical Home Depot Stanley claw hammer. When I bought this, it was $6. So it's been around and it's built a lot of stuff. It's always good to have something like this in the shop. It's pretty standard. This is a mallet with two different hardnesses plastic on it, and they unscrew, they're replaceable, and I've got a bunch of extras. I use this to knock things into place without damaging them. This one is harder, this one is softer, so I can make a choice on how hard I want to hit it without making any damage to the wood if I'm kind of like getting things, nudging things back into place. This really doesn't belong in my shop, but this belonged to my grandfather. And it's a small sledge, and I have used it. It's kind of handy for some things. I haven't changed it. I haven't tried to clean it up because it's quite old. I come from a very old family. I'm 70, and my mother had a bunch of kids, but I was the baby, and I was born very late in life. So my grandfather was born in 1886, and I have no idea when he got this, but let's say he got it in his 20s or something. That would make it in the early 1900s, 10 or something like that. So I haven't tried to sand this down or refinish this. I left the patina on it. This tape is something that was done a ways back. So this isn't part of it, but I might take this off. I might sand this down a little bit. When I think that this may still have some of the oils from his hands on it, from having it used it. I just have to keep it, and I want to put it on the wall, and I do use it occasionally. This is a mallet, which I normally use for my wooden handled chisels. I made this 25 years ago. I carved it by hand out of a piece of maple cordwood. Just grabbed a piece from the side of the house when we had a wood stove. Found one that looked in pretty good shape, and carved it. Something that should normally be done on a lathe, but I don't have one. So I'm going to put that up there because I do use this a bit. So again, trying to keep the size down for the amount of space that this takes up. I know I could put these all like this and mount them like that and whatever on a board, but it would take up, you know, a couple of square feet of space that way. So I got to figure out a way to put this in a consolidated format. I'm adding a spacer between the hanger and the wall board to bring it away a little bit so the hammer has some place to rest. So this is the way it's going to go right now. Place for the mallet, to the hammers. I'm going to put that up there. I'm going to put a couple of dowels in there. And now I just have to round this off, clean things up a little bit, and put it together. So this is where we're at. And I'm going to cut a piece of flat bar and then mount it. So here's the slat wall as it stands at this point in time. Again, down here we have the drills and batteries, the circular saw holder, the grinder, my finish and pin nailer, my saws, my hammering things, which I moved from up there down to here because it bothered putting the cord into the sander box. It wasn't a wise place for it, but here we have the sander and the sandpaper in the roll one with a cutoff knife. And still in the works, drill and bit holder, Lazy Susan rotary thing, and of course, the measuring tools. Next up is probably going to be sockets and wrenches because I have a lot of them and I have a mishmash of stuff. The tools that I have, you'll notice some of them are pretty old and some of them are relatively new. They're definitely two generations, me and a generation before me, and there are very few of them. Most of them I have in storage that are third generation. They go back 100 years. And that hammer that you saw today was one example of that. I also have a lot of wooden block planes and stuff that I don't use. So I do use nuts and bolts a lot. So sockets, wrenches, ratchets is something that's coming next. And that's going to be a bear because I've got to sort them and make some sets because they're all over the place. And then figure out how I'm going to mount them without taking too much room. Because consolidating space is what it's all about. So far, I think we're doing pretty good. We have a lot of space left. And as usual, thanks for watching. And we'll see you in the next video. Take care.